Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hello and hello.
Hello.
Welcome to Zest for Life, Barcelona. Yeah.
Where is the elephant?
Yeah.
Oh.
So there's obviously a big elephant. There's a few elephants here. There's actually 3 elephants in the room. So we're going to discuss this after our first break. But
yeah. It's me, Matthew, and Zest for Life.
and Zest for Life. There's 3 elephants with some elephants in this room to discuss a bit later.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that, but we want to just get into with new and good first.
Yes, so obviously you see that we've changed some scenery. We're more comfortable. We are sitting from the comfort of my home on the sofa.
Green
and
smoothies in
enjoy
hand.
the pleasure of the green smoothie, yeah.
I love a green smoothie.
Did you taste it?
Yes, I have. There's some ginger in here, yeah?
So this one has a bit of maca. So be careful what you're doing tonight.
Sexual potency, folks.
It's also a physical potency and improves the stamina, so especially like it's very good for athletes.
Men hear stamina, I think they usually think sex, so that's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, like I try not to put so much because I don't want you to walk around the streets of Barcelona like dog on
I
heat.
appreciate that, thank you very much. You're very tasty.
Yeah, but it's got banana, it's got spinach, some ginger, and water, and maca powder.
And that's it. So no milk, no dairy. Fantastic. For the vegans out there, you would enjoy it?
Yeah, you would love it. So, welcome back.
Yeah. And so, yeah, my new and good is extensive since we've last... We haven't been in the... together.
Studio
or...
4 weeks.
Yeah, it's been a while because I was in New York once and you were in the studio.
Yeah.
Then we did a replay episode, we had Jim in the studio, and I had the pets. But Vesna and I, it's been a while, so lots of new and good since then.
Do you still feel jet lagged?
I'm a bit jet lagged. I flew in last night. Boy, are my arms tired. No. So yeah, that was. I flew in yesterday afternoon, really. So yeah, I'm a bit jet lagged. I had a lot of sleep last night, but it's just that shift. I just got some sun up on Vesna's terrace, so that's good for the melatonin to help get you back in the mix as far as.
So how many sun salutations did you do?
I did 44 sun salutations. So we started our show on June 21st, which is the summer equinox, I believe. I'm not sure if it's the equinox.
I think it's 21st.
Yeah, and that was the beginning of summer, and so we're now exactly one season. We just today are turning to fall. If you guys are not aware, we're currently in autumn now, and but we started on that first day, and that day you're meant to, according to the yogis, you're supposed to do 44 sun salutations. Or 108. Yeah, 100, something like this.
108.
Where did I get the 44 from? I don't know.
Because you chose to do 44 for yourself.
Because 4 is my favorite number, and that's what I do. So that's what every week before we do our show, I've been doing 44 sun salutations.
Right. Well done to you. You know, 108 salutations basically they represent a new beginning if you do them. Because like if you look into the Hindu religions and other like Buddhist religions, like they've got the beads, so they tend to like chant 108 times.
Yeah.
You know,
like those mala beads. There's mala beads over there.
Yeah, there's some mala beads there. They're from India.
Lovely. Okay, good. Yeah. So.
And there are 108.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. There are. If I went to count them, you promise.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you do Hare Krishna on each
Krishna,
bead.
Hare.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, but the biggest new and good for me, really, honestly, is that I have now my second nephew. So that's happened since I've been in New York. Not long after I got to New York. I just showed Vesna a picture. He's very, very cute. August Joseph. Rose.
August Joseph. That sounds so Roman.
I want to call him Augustus. Actually, I do want to call him Augustus, but his name is August Joseph. And so that's the biggest thing. That's I would say that's really the biggest thing. And then I was a little bit concerned. I didn't know how I would feel when I came back to Barcelona because I've been gone for quite some time. I've been gone for
4 weeks.
Yeah, for about 4 weeks, and so.
The number 4 comes up again.
And see what had happened when I was getting ready to leave New York. There was a time when I returned back to New York after a trip, and I was like, I don't know if I want to be here anymore. It was like that experience of like, oh, the city's not welcoming me back. I don't feel like I want to be here anymore.
In Barcelona?
No, in New York. Before I left. Yeah. Really? And so I was concerned that would happen when I got here, but I landed and I immediately felt inspired and energized again, and just the good energy of Barcelona.
I still haven't gone there. Yeah. It's still my dream to come true.
To New York.
Yeah, I haven't visited. Well, you know, well, it's a question of visas and stuff. I will need some invitation.
Of course.
But before we continue, I already see some people saying hola. Okay. So
hola.
Hola, Eric. There's Eric Ramirez who says saludos desde de la Ciudad de México.
Ah, de México. Bienvenido.
Well, buena suerte en México at the moment.
Sí, también. There was an earthquake, yeah?
They're having some environmental you know,
I haven't
disturbances.
actually been focusing.
I hope you stay safe, Eric, all you, your family and your friends and everybody else in Mexico, but thanks for watching us and thanks for following us.
Exactly. That was another thing that was new and good for me. Also in Florida, you probably are aware there was a massive hurricane throughout the Caribbean and Florida. And I have a lot of friends and family, and all of them are safe with minimal damage to property. So it worked out really well for the people that I love, and I had been very concerned about it. I actually went down to Florida to rescue my grandmother and bring her back up to New York and spend some time with the babies. So all those things are doing good. I really enjoyed spending time with my family, my friends, and New York. And it was a long time, so I could actually relax and enjoy. So that's what's doing good for me.
Nice.
What's doing good for you, Vesna?
Well, I love making my smoothies. I went to brunch in the park on Sunday. It's something that I haven't done for quite some time, and I just felt the need to just dance. Just get
by yourself?
No, with friends.
Oh, brunch in the park, you mean like...
yeah, like the brunch electronic there used to be up at Montjuic.
For the people in Barcelona, so the people outside of Barcelona, there's something called Picnic Electronic, which happens in Montjuic, and so
now they've changed it. So they've changed it to brunch in the park. That's a new way.
There we go.
And before it was brunch electronic is the one that it's in the
city itself. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So basically, the whole concept of it, it's like it's in the park. You've got people with their stands promoting their own brands, whatever they do. You can eat, you can drink, you can chill out, and you can dance. You can chill out, in the separate area. There's also like a playground for kids, so quite often you come across like a young couple with their little baby and headphones on, and they're just dancing.
I've seen this as well.
Which is pretty cool.
Very cool.
I like the culture of it, and it's nice because it's during the day, so it's not like you have to go late at night because nightlight starts in Barcelona quite late,
Indeed,
at 11, 12.
Yeah.
This begins at 1, it ends at 10, so just perfect timing, to spend the sunny Sunday afternoon, and just chill. Really.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
this is really good.
You don't really want to drink that much. Well, there's people they drink a lot. It's Barcelona, but you don't really want to drink when the sun is out. You just want to enjoy. So it was nice. I cannot complain. I'm also changing some strategies within my business, like trying to really, put my brand in the spotlight. I feel like it's coming, and I've been a little bit procrastinating, and I've been trying to question and observe that feeling, what it's to do with fear of success, which
we're going to talk about fear a bit later.
Many of us do suffer about. But apart from that, all good. All good,
Good.
Today I feel like some energy has lifted off, and I feel pretty good about actually sitting at my home.
Here we are in Vesna's beautiful home.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. So we're going to normally we would go into a music break, but because we're on Facebook Live, that's not really allowed, or we could do it, but they could cut the stream. Yeah,
and we don't want to do that. So we don't want to cut our streams.
Basically, instead of a music break, what I'm going to do during the breaks in our conversations is lead us in some basic exercises. So this first one's going to just be a breath exercise, and it's going to be quite simple. And then we'll come back and we'll talk more about these elephants and what's going on.
Regarding the breathing exercise, you don't have to, but I would strongly advise you to join us in and maybe share your experience. Like, for example, if Eric is online, Rebecca is online. Hi, Rebecca. Just follow what we do, and if you've got any questions or comments, or you just want to share the experience of what we've just done, we will be happy to discuss it with you.
Exactly. Probably after the show, because we'll move on to the next conversation. But if you comment below, I promise I will respond to each and every one of you. So I'm gonna actually be cross-legged. You don't have to do this.
I'm wearing a
She's
dress,
not doing it, so it's fine.
Like
and this is not like any kind of breath thing where you're gonna have to really count your breath or try to control your breath. I'm gonna ask you to kind of count and become aware of your breathing. And so it's really simple. So just set the lighting in your room, what you're wearing, make sure that you're able to be comfortable before we begin. And we're just gonna do a very basic breath awareness exercise. So all you have to do is actually bring your palms, if you're sitting out like regular on the couch, you can bring your palms to your knees. If you're cross-legged, same deal, like this. If you know mudras, you can do those, but you don't have to. And now you're just gonna close your eyes so that you're either close your eyes completely or look through the eyelashes. And then all you're gonna be doing now is every time you have a thought, bring your attention back to your breathing. So you're breathing in the nose and out the mouth. And see if you can notice, just begin to count for yourself inside your head the number of breaths in the nose and out the mouth. So you can compare and contrast and see which is longer, the inhale or the exhale. So just start to become aware of your breathing. Not controlling the breathing, just becoming aware. I'm going to be quiet for about 10 seconds so you guys can just do that. Really great. So just now you might begin to notice when you're counting that the inhale is longer than the exhale, or the exhale is longer than the inhale. And then see if you can bring your attention to consciously bringing them closer together, maybe slowly at first, and then eventually evening out the breath so that you're breathing in the nose and out the mouth for about the same amount of time. In the nose and out the mouth. Simple. I promise you, if you do this once a day, there will be benefits for your levels of stress and anxiety, which we're going to talk about a bit later in the show. Just keep counting, noticing if they're getting closer to even. I'm going to do it for a moment with you guys. See, I noticed that my inhale was shorter than my exhale, so now I want to see what happens if I can get my inhale and exhale to be the same. When I did that just now, I felt more grounded, like I could actually feel myself more on the couch here. I was floating a bit high in my head at the beginning of the show here, so now I've got a bigger sense of grounding. So you can share on the comments below about what you noticed about your breath, if you had a longer inhale, longer exhale. You can share whatever you like if you've got questions about that. It's a really, really simple exercise that you can use whenever you want, really, to just bring yourself out of your thoughts into your body and into your breathing. And later in the show, we're going to talk more about emotions. It's so good. We're getting lots of comments here. I'm getting a lot of comments on my live feed. So that's great. Good. So, yeah, our next conversation. What's our next conversation, Vesna? Let me take a look here back to what I think. Oh, where have we been as a show and where are we going? The short answer is, we don't know. So, right now, what's certain is that we're no longer going to be broadcasting on Barcelona City FM. And that's something that we only discovered this morning, really. So
which was quite shocking.
It was a bit of a shock
for both of us.
So we're not going to,
whatever reason.
We're not going to get into the details of what happened. Just suffice it to say that we were not prepared for that to be happening.
Because we are not here to discuss politics.
No, we're really not.
We're here to promote health and wellness
and
inspire people. So we're going to keep on thriving no matter what.
That's right. We have a Zest for Life. That includes, it's beyond the platform that we're on and beyond.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what the platform will be.
Really
we're going to keep it on.
I know that I'm committed to spreading messages of health and peace and prosperity and energy and success to people, and that's what I'm going to keep doing no matter what needs to happen. So more to come as we figure things out. We're just kind of testing this out today to see how we feel about it, and that's it. So here we are. So that's too much. That's not much more that I would say about it. Just that there are elephants. Obviously, there must be a story, and there is one. I promise you, there is.
There's always a story.
If I have the pleasure of meeting some of you guys in person, I can share a bit more. Yeah, I won't give you all the dirty details, but like there is a bit more context. I just don't want to use a public forum and waste too much of your time talking about things that it's just scuttlebutt. I mean, it's just.
I mean, like one disadvantage is that maybe we cannot play tunes live because of Facebook, but at least I feel like we are closer to our audience by just being Facebook Live. And another thing, what I feel is that we can actually dive a little bit more deeper into conversations rather than always having 5 minutes breaks or this breaks, 6 minutes breaks. So maybe the show will last less than an hour, but at least I feel like you might actually get more out of it. You will get definitely more out of it if you guys tune in with us and really start a conversation and ask questions, like we've been trying to encourage people to do this for 3 months now. And there's nothing wrong with saying hello, same as like Eric or Rebecca, or ask some particular Kevin, hi Kevin, and just ask about something that you're interested within, the area of health and wellness or something that you would like to improve.
Even if you're struggling with something, just let us know. We can craft topics around that to support you.
Yeah. exactly.
So there we go. So before we're going to talk, what's next is anger. We're going to talk about the emotion of anger, which is an intense one, and probably something that many people have felt. Actually, here in Catalonia, I don't know if people around the world are yet aware, there's been like a kind of the Spanish government is coming in and doing some things because there was a vote that was meant to be happening for an independence vote, and in the eyes of the federal government, in the eyes of the Spanish federal government, they really don't they don't think that that's legal, that vote, so they came and detained. I don't know if they arrested them. I don't know the full story.
I know that there's a lot of...
But there's definitely anger.
There's definitely anger. There's a lot of helicopters, passing around the city center, and like people are on heat, And it's really funny, like even the name anger itself, it's angry,
It's like you use the
angry, just like the name itself holds energy.
Yeah, and even in Spanish it's rabia, right? Or I think that's one of the ways you can say anger is rabia. I think so. And even when I say that, it does represent the anger a bit. So there we go. So we're gonna get into that a bit, but I just wanted to, before we get into these topics, enfado, yeah, that's another way to say anger. So before we get into this conversation around anger, and we're also going to then later talk about fear, I just wanted to lead people in a quick exercise that helps them actually register and know what they're feeling, because mostly
we're not aware about
we're just like kind of thinking all that. You're thinking all day long.
React on impulse and think, and we tend to react based on our thinking, but we don't quite often register that comes with an emotion, and it's the emotion that drives the whole behavior.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially when it's undistinguished. If you can't distinguish your emotion from your thoughts, then they're collapsed, and then your behavior is a mixture of these emotions and thoughts, and it's not productive. So the more people can work to distinguish their emotions from their thoughts and actually spend more time with their actual emotions, feeling them, not thinking about them, the better off I think people are, generally speaking. So we're going to do just a brief exercise where you can distinguish. So Vesna's ready to go. So when you're in the audience here, you're just going to bring your two hands and bring one palm. I think your dominant, where you'd write with, put that directly on your heart. The one you write with on your heart, near your heart. And then the other palm on top of that one. Just gently right there. And then all you're going to be doing, you remember from the previous exercise, breathing in the nose, not the mouth. And you can close the eyes or look through the eyelashes. And you're just breathing in the nose and just direct your attention to where your hands are, near this beating heart of yours, which has historically been associated with emotion. I don't know if that's a physiological thing, but it usually is a gateway for people to understand more about their feelings. So you're going to bring your hands there to your heart and just breathe in the nose and out the mouth. And then I want you to start to notice, I'm going to give you 4 choices. These are the 4 main emotions that are usually most present, at least what I notice with people that I'm coaching and people in my life. These are anger, happiness, sadness, and fear. So you've got, at any given moment, a primary one. There's different shades of each of these emotions, but just bring your hands to your heart. I just want you to get a sense. I'm going to be quiet for about 15 seconds. Just breathe in the nose and out the mouth where your heart is. And see if you can notice, are you mostly like excited, happy? Are you mostly anxious or fearful? Are you mostly angry or just annoyed? Or are you sad or depressed? Like, these are the ranges that you could be having. I'm going to be quiet now 15 seconds just so you can feel, and just feel. So you start to get a sense, like for me, I'm excited, which is a version of happy, because we're talking to you, so I'm excited about that. So that's a version of happy. I don't know what was there for you. You can comment below, and I'll be sure to respond afterwards. Just again, I'm going to give you another 30 seconds. Just really, now when you notice what the emotion is, let yourself feel it for a little bit of a longer period of time. See if you can go 20 or 30 seconds, simply feeling and disassociating the thoughts from the feeling, actually feeling the emotion. What would that be like? Sometimes for me it's fearful or sad, and I don't want to dwell in that, but I just tell myself 20 or 30 seconds, and then I'll move on. If we give the space to the emotions, usually they pass on before you start attaching thoughts to them, which keep them in place. That's a very basic exercise. You can do that 2 or 3 times a day if you want. You can even do it before major events or right after something happens that's shocking. You can do it in the morning or in the evening. People find it valuable to do that, just to check in and at least spend some time not in your thinking, but in your actual feeling, in your emotions. Use your body to express that. Here we go.
It was quite interesting because, like,
notice?
well, like at the beginning, I don't know whether it was excitement or a bit nervousness because we are live on air.
Yeah.
So sometimes, you know, the excitement and nervousness
is it more fear or happy?
Yeah, can be quite confusing. Maybe it was a bit of both. But you know, this is the heart chakra, you know, the center of our heart, and like I don't think it's only physiological. There's definitely, I don't know, personally I believe that there's a energy and there's a reason why, you know, like, you know, when your heart's been broken, like I think many of us have, like your heart, it's really painful
sometimes,
there, you know, like I just feel the pain there. So there must be, you know, like a connection between, you know, like the energetical field of us and the physiological field. And when I placed my hands, although I could feel this a bit of nervousness or excitement, like this was a sense of security. You know, I'm holding my heart. You know, so it came with an element of peace.
Oh, good. Yeah, there's something about the exercise where it's just simply bringing your own hands to yourself.
It's like you're holding yourself.
And just in doing that, that can bring a benefit to you, I think, for anyone.
Yeah.
Probably. Very likely. Yeah, so we're going to talk about anger, yeah?
Yes. So anger. We've all felt it.
It's a major emotion. And, you know, I guess...
Very often present in our lives.
In the society at large. We love to watch it. I mean, at least, I don't know if it's everywhere, but in the States, the reality television is very big, and just watching people get angry with each other, people love to watch that. It's like it's a drama. It's a thing.
We're attracted to the drama. I think we're conditioned that way.
Yeah, and I've always said to people, not always, but since I've been on a path of learning more about how human beings function and why they are the way they are, that there is a function for anger. It's not a bad thing. So, you know, we talked about this briefly this morning. Like, it's not, you know, because there is a social stigma. Because why? Because usually we collapse anger with, if you're mean to someone, that's a different thing. Like, if I think of anger, I immediately imagine someone yelling at someone, and that part, not as okay. Like, I'm not condoning that. And when I feel,
So what you say is that, like, when the anger is consciously and purposely directed towards somebody
in order to hurt,
that's when it's got a negative impact.
I think that's fair to say that
does make
negative.
sense.
Yeah. And then, but if I get angry in a moment with myself, where I'm like, you know, like you've seen child do that as well, and they don't necessarily yell at you; they just get angry. And this is what I've understood: is it's a lesson. It's like, okay, one of my boundaries just got crossed. This is messing with my identity. I thought I'm this way, or the world is this way, or we agreed to this, and now
something's been triggered.
Something's off.
Yeah, something is off.
So that's the value of anger is that piece. It's just like, okay, I really now have to stop and pay. If I stop and pay attention, because normally what we do is we try to understand, well, how did this happen? Right away we go into the analyzing, or we shouldn't be angry.
Or the situation, rather than analyzing ourselves, why we feel this way.
Exactly. And we don't actually express it. We just immediately, the first initiation of the anger has us jumping right into what's the story about it, instead of actually feeling and expressing anger through our body. Just go, you know, like that. And there's a value in just expressing it rather than, you know, immediately thinking about it. I think that's true.
I agree with you, and I'm going to share a little bit about myself. Like, I've been going, as you're aware, to quite a transitional phase lately, like in the past month and more, and like I felt it for a long time coming, and it's been like lots of ups and downs and lots of feelings of fear, anger, sadness, frustration have appeared, you know, and they've been triggered. You know, they don't just appear from nowhere, but they've been triggered. And there were moments when, like, because I'm angry, I would become anxious because I want to run away from the feeling of anger. You know?
It goes into fear.
And then it goes into fear, and then it goes into an anxiety because you're trying to fight it rather than be it.
Yes.
You know? So, and like I've been trying to change the situation for a long time, that eventually I got tired of trying to change the situation. It became so painful that I just decided to sit with it. You know, I decided to sit with it and to just be with it.
Man, am I angry?
You know, yeah, but like just be with it because you know there's nothing wrong with going through what you're going through. You know, you're exactly where you need to be.
Yes.
You know, and one of my friends this morning said very smart thing. You know, and she was like, you know, if anything else, you know, it's only going to get you closer to you. And it's so true.
Yeah.
Although it might not sound logical, because we think that we're not supposed to be feeling angry because it's a negative emotion, whatever. No. Anger is part of us as much as is love and fear and frustration or whatever. You know, they're all just an emotion. But it depends on how you associate yourself with them.
Exactly. And I think, yes, and I think because what happens is when, and I notice this even when I watch people interacting with children, there's not a lot of room. We don't really allow, we don't want them to be angry or sad, mostly. Like, it's, you know, as soon as a baby cries, it's like, oh, we got to do something about that. Yeah. So we get conditioned from the beginning. And that's, in the beginning, it's just the body. Like, they're just sad because they're hungry or they need to, their diaper change.
And they don't have yet developed a language to express themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in those cases, yes, we do need to take the immediate action. But if it's anger or sadness, when we're now adults, we just don't have the training to have to separate the thinking from those emotions. Like to be like, okay, I'm just going to feel sad for a couple of minutes, or I'm going to feel angry, and then I'll, you know, my mind's always going to be there to understand what happened. But just actually give some moments to the actual emotion. I think that's
to feel it.
Yeah, and just be with it and get it. And being with something doesn't mean, like, I think the trick that my mind plays is, well, don't do that, because then if you start to be sad, you're going to stay sad for a long time. And you know, if you need to set up with someone where like I think actually, I don't know if I've ever done this, but I thought about doing it. Calling a friend or a family member and saying, listen, I'm gonna call you in 20 minutes. I'm gonna now just go and be sad. Like, I was that afraid to get sad or afraid to get angry that I would be like, I'm not gonna, because I just thought it would go so deep and I didn't want to. You know, I was like, no, it's intense.
Sometimes it can, you know, if you're not like very strong in center, maybe with yourself, or let's just say like emotionally intelligent, it can go really down a spiral, like people, you know, and they cause depression, they cause, you know, but sometimes it can really get to a point, like for example with sadness, that there's only for so long that you can be sad, you know, and then eventually, you know, you'll be like,
exactly,
you need to do something about your life, you know, like it becomes so painful that you associate so much pain with that feeling that then at one point, you know, it's like when people reach rock bottom, you know, you just choose and you say, I've had enough, you know, it's time to change, I've had enough. And maybe sometimes that's exactly what it takes, you know, to make that change.
Yes, exactly. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
And so it's like this with any, you know, sadness. We're talking about mostly anger now, but we're also talking about sadness.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is like, my message about it, or my thought about it, my experience of it is that we just are not giving enough space to our emotions. So just actually see if you can spend a little bit of the time in the next few days doing that, actually feeling, and just know that your mind is always going to be there to come back and help you figure out afterwards. But if you're not letting yourself go into the actual expression of that emotion, you're missing out on some energy that's available to you. You're
missing out on you.
Yeah.
Because it is part of you.
And then, if you, the other thing I'd say about like with anger, if you're noticing it's a recurring thing and it's associated with the same situation or the same person, then it is trying to tell you like there's probably some thought attached to that thing, or there's some conversation that you're not taking an action.
Or belief.
Yeah, it could be a belief.
Believe that it's created a pattern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it could be like a fear wrapped up with that. There's another emotion of fear stopping you from doing what needs to happen to resolve that, so you don't keep getting angry over and over again at the same situation. There's something missing. Yeah. And we talked about it, I think, the one when I was in New York, we talked about the parable from the book about, you know, your partner and this kind of thing. And it's a lot of times that anger that you initially have with someone you're close with, where you feel comfortable expressing that anger, is because there was just somewhere before that moment of anger where you just didn't, you didn't express yourself fully. They're not clear about how important this thing is for you. And if they were, maybe they wouldn't have done it. Maybe you expected them to know it, but they didn't. They didn't know it, or you just, they should have. You think they should have. And those are the thoughts that get in the mix, and then it drags you down. It kind of just keeps you in that spiral.
Well, what quite often also happens with people is that, like, when it's being triggered at a moment, okay, it could be just a little situation that's been triggered, but it's so subtle that you don't pay attention, and subconsciously it builds up, and it builds up with you, that you're not going to, how to say, like, express it right away, but as you go down, you know, further with the day, you might actually express it at the very wrong timing, you know, because that's been building up, but you were not aware that it's been building up. And then it could be something, little thing, just because, you know, the spoon was set this way, but it wasn't this way, that could just set you off. But the original trigger of the anger was a previous situation that happened earlier in the day. Yeah, you know?
Exactly. And I think that's if we had a greater capacity to feel our emotions for longer periods of time, we probably would have the capacity to hold them until the appropriate time. Because we're mostly not being with our emotion. It's like, then when it does happen in that moment, it's like it comes right out, and I have no capacity to hold it. Like if I could wait for a more appropriate time to talk with someone about it, not to wait too long. It's not about like withholding and stopping, but it's like just have it be in an appropriate time when the person can really listen and get you. And really, first of all, before I ever have a conversation with anyone about anger or anything, I would look at myself like, okay, let me feel the anger first. Is there anywhere that I can be responsible for what's happened?
Yeah.
And then if it's still there, then I want to have a conversation with them. I don't go in there saying, what the fuck have you done? Like, it's more like, I don't know if I can say that on Facebook. I think I can. I don't want to go right in with that. I'll start with, this is happening over here with me. This anger has not, you know, it's a trigger that something you did, but I have the trigger. It's over here with me, the anger. It's not with you. You didn't cause my anger. Because if I don't want ever anyone to have the power.
Your reaction might have caused the anger, but why is it triggering so much?
See, I disagree completely here. I don't.
Okay, so tell me.
This is where I don't think anyone ever causes my anger. I don't want to say that. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to live that way, because then I've lost my power. I've given my power to someone else. Like they could, in other words, because if someone else, like if they did the same thing to someone else and they wouldn't get angry, another person wouldn't get angry. But for me, I got angry in that situation. Yeah. So it's not them that's causing.
Yeah, but this is why I said the reaction. So it's the person's reaction caused the anger, not the actual person, because that reaction maybe.
What do you mean reaction?
Okay, maybe let's call it. This is getting interesting. I like it. A form of behavior. So maybe that form of behavior could be a reminder of someone else that did it to you back in the past.
Exactly.
So it's the form of behavior that triggered the anger in you, not the person.
So you're saying that you're having a reaction to the behavior, not to the person.
Behavior, exactly.
I got it. I understand.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
So it's.
So typical or stupid, I don't know, some simple example that it's quite often happens. For example, I don't know, let's say you got in an argument with your partner and they smash something and it makes you infuriated. They don't smash something because they want to hurt you.
Yes.
They smash something because
That's
of their
what
own
they do.
feeling. That's what they do.
Yeah.
Right, but you become so angry and you start to blaming them because maybe when you were growing, your dad was doing the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's and then it's just reaction. It's not. There's not actually any being with the emotion. It's just like you're throwing it back and forth to each other in that moment.
Exactly.
And that's not resolving anything. That's just like a.
But I agree on you of like not holding anybody responsible for what's triggered within yourself because you're giving them power. I do agree with that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. So,
interesting.
Yeah. Anger. I mean, so this is why I think there's so much juice in anger. Like people who try to always be happy, I think, are really missing out on a lot. They could have so much more richness in their life, and they would know so much more about themselves if they allowed themselves to sometimes get angry. First with yourself, practice with yourself. If you tend to be someone who can be mean, like I can have a mean streak, I can, really, honestly.
Me too.
So it's like, so if
I'm a woman.
Well, there we go. So it's like I don't want to practice with other people initially. So that's why I like exercises where I connect to my own emotions. I'm attracted to those because I can at least then feel, okay, this is why I'm angry here. And then over time, if I feel it, if I'm doing that often after talking with a particular person or a particular situation, then I know there's something about that has to change. And I don't know what it is yet, but I'm definitely, the energy of the emotions is building.
Yeah. So like as a conclusion, one ways of like handling the emotions and being completely aware of yourself, you would suggest, I believe, like these breathing exercises, because you know, becoming aware of your emotions is basically becoming more present with yourself.
Exactly.
And how do we become present? Through breathing techniques, through meditation, whatever rocks your boat, basically.
Exactly.
You know. But Matthew suggests, you know, the practices that we did before.
Yeah.
You know, another thing that I would probably suggest is take a pen and paper, you know, and write down, because instead of like searching your own thoughts in your own mind and getting lost like, you know, labyrinth, you know, really write down everything that comes out, you know, all the shit, just put it on a piece of paper and observe what you've written, you know, like reread what comes out of you, what is the thought pattern, where is it coming from, or ask yourself, you know, why do I feel this way?
Yes.
You know, what is trying to tell me?
Yes.
You know?
So, you know, some people don't want to write down. You can record now. You know, you can
Yeah.
use your, and then listen back to it and hear what you hear in there. Like,
Yeah.
you know, some people audio, they're more audio. Some people are more visual. It's all
Yeah.
good. Whatever you want to do, it's fine. Yeah. These are all ways to do it. So that the exercise we just did about with the hands and heart was more for the emotions. That first one was really just body, just kind of equalizing breath. So that when we talk about breath exercise, it was that hands on the heart thing, and just actually giving yourself a minute or two just to say, oh, what is the actual emotion here? What am I feeling? Am I sad, happy, angry, or fearful? Those are the four big ones, and you go from there. So yeah, we're going to talk more. We're going to talk more about fear. One more thing I wanted to say about anger. Someone told me this recently, and it really resonated, and it makes sense in my life. When I look, if I'm looking backwards on life, like in other words, anger is not very associated with the future because it hasn't happened yet. You can't be too angry about something that might or might not happen in the future. It's really pretty much almost always if we're focused on the past.
Or present.
Like if there's certain moments, if someone like just in that moment broke a trust with you or did something that really, you know, then that's a moment thing. But most of the time, it's not, you know.
You're angry because of
something
that's
that already happened. It's not even happening anymore, and you're still feeling the anger.
Yeah.
So anger is very past-based, and then we're going to talk about fear, which is a lot more, you know, it's all about the future. Like there's no fear about the past because the past has already happened.
There's a lot of focus on the future.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll talk about that when we come back from this break, which normally would have been music, but today we're going to do a little brief exercise, which utilizes what I learned from something called somato-respiratory integration, which is a technique that, you know, many people in the world use. It's created by a man named Donald Epstein, and I spent many, many years teaching that work to many people. So we're not going to do a full exercise of that, but we had done it on one of our first shows, like second or third show. Yeah, very brief one. I want to go a little bit deeper into it today, and just to show you guys how you, well, really what it is that with the biggest learning that I got from doing that exercise, and I practice it almost every day for years, is that there is a fundamental connection between your emotional state, your body state, and your mind state.
For sure.
And so if you're not really aware of that and living that in your daily life, and
mind, body, spirit.
Mind, body, spirit, or emotions, body, mind, whatever. There's three of them here. We have 3 elephants, and they're still in the room. Yeah. Maybe on a future show we'll get to more of what's happening with elephants now. So we're just going to do it's a very basic exercise. You're just going to bring your 2 hands together. You can close your eyes or look through the eyelids, and bring your hands to the top of your chest, not to your neck, but to the top of your chest. And you're just going to breathe in the nose and out the mouth. And I want you to, on a scale from 1 to 10, notice how present you are with exactly where your hands are on your body as you're breathing in the nose and out the mouth. Like, are you thinking, or are you just right there? And is it just this part of your body that's moving and that you're feeling and that you're aware of? The breath is there. Now move your hands down the middle of the chest, like to the first part where it gets soft after the ribs separate. There's a little part there. It's called the xiphoid process, where your ribs separate. Bring your hands to that place. Just breathe in the nose and out the mouth there. Notice if you can focus your attention here. Breathe in the nose and out the mouth. How, from 1 to 10, how present are you with your hands on this spot? For me today, I'm really present in this spot. Usually I'm not, but today I am. That's interesting. Just notice freedom. One more round. In the nose and out the mouth. Good. Then bring your hands to your belly button, so the center of your palm, right on your belly button. And just breathe in the nose and out the mouth there. And you're just comparing, like, which of these 3 places was I most present in? Doesn't mean you liked it. It just means I could be there. Which of these 3 are you most able to be in? In the nose, not the mouth. So for the people that are watching, if you want to comment, belly button, middle of the chest, upper chest, let us know where you were connected if you have any questions about that basic exercise. We're going to go into it again in a moment. I just want to say something about why we just did that. So what I've found working with thousands and thousands of people is that these three parts of the body, there are parts of them that you tend to be connected to and tend not to be connected to. And in your body, it shows up there. It's the most, the place where you can see it really clearly. Because why? Because we tend to disconnect from emotions and thoughts. We just tend to not want to be present to what we're thinking or what someone else said or the feeling that we're having, or the feeling that someone else is having. So there's parts of you that shut down that you can't quite connect to. So you'll notice differences in the three different places. I'm curious to hear for what Vesna, what happened for her. She connected with the three places.
Right, so the most connected I felt is in the solar plexus area.
Today.
And it's funny because...
now, I just want to say, everything after someone says this that's where the thoughts are tied to the body. So it's really that. So what did you notice?
So the reason why, and I'm not very surprised that I feel the most connected with this place, because this is the place where usually I tend to feel my pain, my fear, and my anger.
And you're present to this right now.
Yeah, and I'm present to that the most, Like when you were here, I was drifting away, with the thoughts, different thoughts and emotions, and it's the same with the belly button, but here, I was just there. Yeah.
Well, that's the first part of it. You first get present to and acquainted with the three different areas. Then to go a bit further is to distinguish which of the other two were you least present in, because that's where the opportunity is. It's like, how come I couldn't be present there? What am I avoiding feeling or thinking there about myself, about a situation, about other people? And we can't do this in this environment because it's that part is quite personal, what you would come up with. What is the thing? I don't want to feel sadness right now, or I don't want to think the thought that I'm a failure, or whatever those things are.
Could it be a physical issue?
Also, yeah, sometimes it is actually just purely physical. Yeah. So the idea is if you practice that more often, you catch things earlier, because the physical body is the final reflection. It's this is the result. When you get ill later in life. Yeah, what I've been putting in my body for years and years and years, what I've been thinking, the actions I've been taking, how I've been spending my time. Yeah. The body is the final point. So if you can interact with things earlier, when it's in the emotional realm, or when it's the way you're thinking, you have access to changing things that will give you better health and a longer life and a more, So,
I'm going to share a little bit about me. The least present, I was in the belly button area, and funny enough, I used to have digestive issues.
No. And so I found, working with different people, that it really does correlate with what they've been paying the most attention to in their life and which parts still needed some attention of theirs. And so there you go. That's it. So these are basic exercises. There's a lot more that goes into that with somatic work, and I'm sure there are other modalities that do similar things. What I'm offering you is just so that people know that you have leverage with these things. You can if you're aware of them, if you're conscious about them, then you have the chance and the opportunity to change it. If you just didn't even know that you're always disconnected in this upper part of your chest, could be something physical going on, could be associated with an emotion, could be associated with some thought pattern that you've not acknowledged, or some dynamic in a relationship that you've not acknowledged. And then you're just, you're kind of going through life with blinders on, not really present.
Like when they say, an obnoxious behavior.
Exactly.
Although even when we act normally, but we're not aware of our emotions, we actually act obnoxiously because we are not present with what we do, what we think,
I can be obnoxious, for sure, sometimes.
Not myself too,
everyone.
come on, we're not perfect, there's so many times when I actually, I've rewinded the tape back, saw myself how obnoxiously I've reacted, and I even felt ashamed for it. But that is already the first step to healing and making a change, recognizing where you've gone wrong and what you've done, being able to see yourself where you used to be and how you used to do it. And those are just little steps forward, steps forward. Every time you catch yourself, or every time you go back to that moment, and look at your behavior without judgment and without judging the other person in that situation, you're actually taking a step to healing.
Exactly. And it's one of the two things that almost every day I'm working with gratitude. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. And acknowledgement. These are the two powerful tools that any given day, if you can spend some time being grateful for things and sometimes acknowledging things where you just could have maybe not being the best version of yourself in that moment, and you can acknowledge that to someone in your life, that creates a certain field in your relationship, a certain kind of, excuse me, the green juice. Yeah, it's really good.
Thank you.
So it creates a certain kind of vibe. It's a compassionate vibe because you're being compassionate with yourself. You're saying, listen, I didn't love the way that I was, and I just want you to know, or you just acknowledge someone for thanking them for what they did.
Yep.
Just kind of create those. And then gratitude is a separate thing where you just, what are you grateful for about your life? Could be a person, but could be a situation, could be some result you have in your life. These are things that are very, really valuable. Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's
for example, like what happened, this morning after, we received the shocking information that our show is cancelled. Like, right away I spoke with some of my friends and, there's nothing, nobody can do anything about it, but like just by them saying, how do you feel about the show? I express gratitude, thank you for asking, because just by asking, you're showing support that you care about my emotional state.
Exactly.
And acknowledging that and giving back, you're only creating more field of love.
Exactly. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So that was what we want to do. And then we want to talk a bit more about fear, yeah?
Yeah, and like time is flying.
I
thought that it was going to take only like 30 minutes because we don't have music, but we're doing pretty well. Yeah,
15 more minutes, yeah. So we were talking about before, like anger, mostly related to the past. So if you're experiencing fear on a regular basis, there's something about the future that's unresolved, because there's no, unless in the present moment there's like an animal that's about to attack you or something that's about to actually end your physical life, that's an appropriate fear response, then it's in that moment. But it's almost never happening. So it's like, or if you're on it, maybe like in a roller coaster and there's a fear it might go off the tracks. I've had that one. Or, I'm in an airplane, sometimes I get afraid if there's bumping around. It was yesterday, pretty bumpy, coming from Paris to Barcelona. So that's probably, but most of the time when we're having fear, it has something to do with, we just don't know what's going to happen.
We just assume,
we're
in a space of uncertainty. Uncertainty causes a lot of fear. By the way, if you do hear noises from an outside, we are in Spain. So
there's some reconstruction going on almost everywhere.
Yeah, almost everywhere.
So
we apologize for that. I do not have a studio.
That's okay.
But it's okay. I feel pretty good here on the sofa.
Yeah.
Hence the reason why so many times, in so many books and so many authors, and so many times it's been repeated, we see it everywhere on social media when they say fear is an illusion. This is exactly what they mean, the reason why fear is an illusion, because you are creating fear based on your future thoughts, that something might or shoulda, woulda, or if is going to happen.
Yes.
So it is.
There's another thing, the acronym for the English word fear, false evidence appearing real. I've heard that many times and I love it, because it's like you're making up evidence, and you have no idea, you can't know how it's going to go. It's just like where you're putting your attention is like, this thing might happen and that would be really bad, so I'm afraid. But it's not often, almost never is it actually the thing you think is going to happen. So
it's false evidence
appearing real. Yeah,
what's that?
That's a good one. So anyway, that's what there's to say about fears for me. And again, like with the anger thing, if it's recurring, there's one way to deal with that. But if it's fear recurring all the time, then I say there's something going on that a person when they're experiencing fear regularly has lost their connection to the source of who they are. Like there's something missing. Like when I know who I am and what I'm here to do, and I am confident in my message and what I'm here in the world to do, there's no fear. I just do it. Like even today, I was like,
their connection to their genius
inside. Yeah, because even today, like we had shipped some things at the very last second, and I was like starting to get afraid. And I'm like, well, maybe this is exactly the only way this conversation was going to happen this way was because this. And
because of this, yeah.
So I have no idea, but I just know that what I'm speaking, I'm paying a lot of attention to what I'm saying, so that I'm speaking the truth, and I have to trust that what I'm saying is born of my experience, and that I have a real commitment to help people, and I'm clear about that.
Yeah.
Some people, there's many people like, and there's times I've not been clear in my life about who I am and what I'm here to do. So I think if there's someone listening that you're experiencing fear regularly and it's not changing, I would suggest there's something disconnected between who you think you are and who you actually are. Like the person you actually are here, the gifts that you have to give, you're not connected to them. And I think if that's happening on a regular basis, first of all, my heart goes out to you, because living in fear is one of the worst, one of the worst experiences in the world.
Horrible. I mean, I've been there. I'm sure you've been there. In moments, but it's. But like I always, or lately I say, it's always good, even if it's bad, it's good. Because like. Fear puts you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and you have to get clear. Okay, it's like,
and it's the only way to grow.
Exactly. It's like, okay, there's something about the way that I'm living into the future that I'm uncertain about. So what can I get clear about now? Like I'm unclear about something.
What do I need to change? What areas do I need to improve in, grow, establish? What is it missing?
Exactly.
These are like you're trying to put together the pieces of the puzzle of your life.
Exactly.
But rather when you don't feel fear, you don't feel all these emotions, and everything is all the time good and and
hunky-dory.
Hunky-dory, then there's no reason to really activate your mind or your emotions.
Easier to get to be not present, I think, really.
Yeah.
So that's another value. That's a value. Yeah. Like the value of anger, and there's a value to fear as well. Just it kind of brings focus to the what's not happening about. Like, where am I not clear about my future path? Not so much about the future, but about who I need to be now in order to keep giving these the things that I want to give to the world in the future. So I just say that a lot about fear. It's like, I've had that over the past couple of years for myself, more than a usual amount. And I've been like, okay, well, this is just a period where I'm getting clear about what I'm here to do. And now it's really coming out in this work that I'm doing with my friend Vincent, where we're going to be coaching people on a larger scale. And now, we were just talking earlier today, and there's this whole other vision I have for the kind of coaching I want to do, which I don't think was going to emerge if I didn't spend this last period of time, and I haven't been in fear for months and months and years, but there's been more often than usual amount of fear. Yeah. And I think that has focused me and had me have different conversations and try out different things with different people. So there's a purpose to it. There really is.
And that's where I am right now. I'm just starting to emerge on the other side slowly. I still don't have the clear picture, but the feeling is there. The vision it's not complete, but the feeling is there, and the feeling is excitement and even a bit fearful because I feel like I'm approaching something big. Yeah. But I had to go through this phase of transformation of like beating myself up about things and suffering and crying and going quiet and being away from the social media to be where I am today. Yeah. So...
Yeah, and sometimes it's about editing. You have to edit out things in your life as things that are not serving you as far as activities you're engaging with, people that you're engaging with. Sometimes that
circles change.
Yeah, exactly. So this is might be the period that people are in if they're feeling fear on a regular basis. That's what I... that's what I think about fear. So, I know we don't have too much time left, so wanted to talk a bit about let's talk about emotional eating, right?
Yeah, well, emotional eating or just generally nutrition, the reason why I wanted to touch base about these things, because, I do, support people to create a sustainable living through the use of food. I do believe that food can serve us as medicine. I believe that planet Earth has provided us with enough herbs and natural medicine for us to learn and create the ability to heal ourselves, and I really think we need to go back to basics. So one of the things that happens is that if you're going to these type of processes, or let's say you start a process of self-observation, self-evaluation, you're moving a little bit more into the holistic side, if you're going to feed your body every single day with processed foods and like toxic foods or like fast foods, that is not going to help, your state of mind to have a clear consciousness about seeing clearly where you are at that moment in time, or becoming more emotionally intelligent, because healthy food, fresh food, straight picked up from the earth, like without pesticides, without herbicides, or like sustainable food is full of life. Everything at the end is energy. So it holds energy, and if that food is picked from the ground and it goes straight to your kitchen and you prepare it with love, what you're consuming is love. Remember the Omoto experiment with the doctor from the Japanese doctor
with the water,
like you put the vibration of hate, the water changes its structure, you put the vibration of also changes it, and then you put the vibration of love, it turns into a beautiful crystal. So it does make sense. So it's the same with food, the food that's being cooked in McDonald's or other fast food places is not a food that's prepared with love. It's a food that's prepared in a rush. But people who are employed, obviously, and they work there, to get money, of course, to live. But, like, not all of them enjoy the work that they do. So the thought process that goes through, while they're preparing the food, the energy that they put, it's very important because that goes really into your body. And
have you noticed, like, different emotions, if you don't want to feel them, you do different, like, I noticed, for me, if it's more fear-based, I tend to go for sugar. If it's more anger-based, I go more towards like an alcohol kind of thing. Like, I don't know, like there's different people medicate themselves in different ways with emotions.
I do agree with that. I think there's a higher percentage, especially with men, when it comes to anger and frustration, they turn onto the alcohol. It's like they want to suppress it without realizing that after a couple of drinks, it just makes them even more angry. Because then they are out of control of their emotions because they're, sedated with the alcohol. I do realize with sadness and fear, it's very often with men and women that they reach out for the chocolate because, it creates serotonin in the body and like it makes you feel a little bit good about yourself for the moment. But then what happens is the vicious circle of like beating yourself after that about eating that chocolate because of calories or the way you look or you ate too much. And to be able to suppress that feeling of beating, you go and reach out for more chocolate, and then you convince yourself from tomorrow I'm gonna start new.
This one I've been lucky because I have my genetics. Like I don't gain weight easily, so I don't have that particular one. But I think there's probably a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very common. So like, but there's ways, like if you feel negative and depressed, like what I would suggest is make yourself or just eat a combination of fresh pineapple and orange because it actually lifts the mood.
And then if you still want to have a piece of junk food, maybe you have that yourself a little bit.
Go for a dark one, go for dates, go for nothing, for something nice, Make yourself a smoothie. I think like usually when I'm in fear and I feel unsettled because like fear is like very airy feeling, like you feel like you're floating because you're in a place of uncertainty. I try to eat warm food. Soups, stews without meat or with meat if you want, everybody has their own food preferences as long as it's clean and it's farm-raised, something that it's warm, so it provides me comfort and it makes me feel grounded. Rooted vegetables, they come from the ground, they are rooted from the ground, so eat more sweet potatoes, eat more beetroots, carrots, anything that comes from the ground to actually make you grounded, to keep you rooted when you feel like you're floating and you don't know where you're standing.
It's one of my favorite things from like training at Institute for Integrative Nutrition was this concept of how different foods, like just their nature, can have a more like sugars make you more spacey, more kind of, and there's grounded root vegetables. And I've experienced it, and I think the more connected you get to your body and the emotions and how they connect to your body, the more you will notice it actually. How I can eat a sweet potato and that's sweet potato, so it has some sugar. I let myself have that, but I do come into myself a bit more. I don't know how to describe it. Like I can sit still, whereas before I wasn't able to.
Well, what has happened with me is that like when you're more aware of yourself and more in touch with your emotions, you're more capable of listening to what type of food your body wants. When you eat that fast food, your body is confused. And it's gonna just keep on searching for the same comfort fast food. That creates addiction anyway. But like when you're in touch with your emotions and when you're in touch with your body, really sometimes without even me thinking, I crave for a carrot, or I crave for kale, or I crave for quinoa.
You can develop these kind of cravings.
You can develop it, it's a much more healthier craving than anything else. Sometimes when I crave for sweet, like really what satisfies my hunger is banana. Like the chocolate is out of the way a long time ago.
You want the banana.
Yeah, and then I ask myself why, where is that coming from, okay, so it does make sense. Or do you know, like for example, quite often happens to me with massaging people. I massage these points here. And people don't realize that here there's a pressure point and we build up so much pressure there when we stay in front of the computer and stuff. And clients quite often say to me, I never knew, but every time when I feel headache or pressure, I always feel like I need to touch this one. So your body naturally knows.
Yeah, it's a release point that they can learn to do themselves over time. It's really cool. Well, we have to wrap up because it's almost 7 p.m. already. So really appreciating you guys being with us today, especially given the last minute change. And especially now more than ever, wanting your comments, questions, likes, shares, whatever you'd like us to focus on.
Yeah, I think we went quite deep into conversations, and it was very, I mean, I learned things from you today.
Different kind of feeling. So thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
We love you.
We
May
do
you
love
have
you.
more zest in your life. Sometimes, just let yourself feel, just notice the range of emotions this week and really let yourself feel it.
And just re-listen this if you haven't watched it all. It's going to be repeated. We'll put a replay in the next couple of days. We will be back next Wednesday, either from here or from another comfort.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. But either way, we are here with you.
Post your questions below.
Yes. And send us a private message if you want.
Of course. On Zest for Life Barcelona.
Take care.
Bye for now, guys.
Bye.
I'm going to close this thing.